The Business Growth Podcast by legendary entrepreneur Dan Bradbury gives you the best strategies to grow a profitable, sustainable company that isn't dependent on you. Whether it be how to hire and lead a world-class team, business finance, marketing, time management, growth through acquisition, or maximizing your company's value before you exit, this podcast is for you. And now, your host for the Business Growth Podcast, Dan Bradbury.
Hey guys, welcome to the Business Growth Podcast with Dan Bradbury and Ed Taylor, and where we believe if you want a better business, you need to be a better business owner. So this is about taking your questions, learning how to expand, grow, and build your mindset, your skill set to have a better business. So, on with the questions.
Brilliant. Okay, first one comes in from a mastermind member, Arthur. What's the best way to get a new staff member prepared for success? So the ideal way to onboard them, if you will.
Yeah, so great question, Arthur. I think that your team are your highest leverage, right? I mean, if you think about it, I think there's the recruitment and then there's the onboarding. Recruiting, first of all. I think a great book on this topic is the book of Who by Jeff Smart. It's great about recruiting the right people, because I can make a case for the only job, or the most important job you've got as an MD, as a leader of a company, is to hire A players, top performers. But then, because by the way, how do most small businesses owners hire? They get desperate for a job. They get desperate, and then they go to friends of friends, so they've got a weak pool, or they put up a shitty job ad.
True.
They get two people respond, or three people respond. One doesn't show up. Right, so they get three responses, they invite all for interview, one doesn't show up, one shows up drunk, so the other one gets the job, right? In other words, it's hiring the least crappy person from a very small pool. And then they wonder why they have employee issues, demotivation, lying, cheating, stealing. So you need to get deal flow, so you need to learn how to recruit. And a lot of small businesses, if they put a fraction of the effort they put into the marketing and getting new clients, if they put that into marketing and attracting the right members of the team, that gives them massive leverage. However, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, the chances are you've had an experience perhaps where you went and got a job at some point, or you know somebody that showed up and they show up to an empty desk and they're expected to kind of figure it out as they go along, right? So I'm clear that one of my a coaching client of mine, or a reciprocal coaching client, was a CEO of still is CEO of $100 million a year plus company, and he's very clear that you hire for culture, you hire for somebody that's the right personality, the right value fit for the business, because you can always train competency. But to be explicit, Arthur, make sure you've got a key onboarding plan. Nobody shows up to work wanting to do a shitty job, but a lot of people, they don't have they're not giving thought to how to onboard, how to get them up to speed, how to make sure that enthusiasm they woke up with on the first day of getting the new job, they've still got it 90 days later. And effectively, if you don't do that, you're drumming into them the not to care, like low, just apathetic bullshit. So
love it. So hire by design, not by default.
That was said much more succinctly than I said. So what Ed said. Next question.
Right. In your opinion, what is the best way to protect your wealth? That's coming in from David via text.
Yeah, great. So I think when it comes to wealth, there's two things. There's three things, depending on how you break it down. Number one, there's the ability to earn money. You could say at a business level, this is driving sales. Mm-hmm. How effective are you at sweating your assets and be able to create a unique value proposition and articulate it?
Yeah.
But then it's how efficient you are at turning those revenues into profits. That's a different skill set, right? Being effective is kind of marketing, it's sales. But being efficient, I mean, this is cost control. This is where the value is really created. That's a different skill set. But then, as a mentor of mine says, the goal is not to get rich, it's to stay rich.
Yes.
You know, nobody wants to make $1 million in profit for 1 year only and the company implodes. And the skills of building wealth is different yet again. So I'm constantly encouraging, what was it, David?
Yeah, David,
to think, David, in those three areas. You're probably driving revenue. I get from the tone of the message, it's okay, I'm assuming you're making profit. What do you do with that? For me, and this is just my personality type, I see business as high risk. I'm trying to de-risk it, but I'm taking as much of that money off the table as I can. So on a personal level, all my wealth is in very boring investments. Stocks and shares, bonds, and property. And I'm a big fan of Ray Dalio, All Weather Fund. It was Tony Robbins' book, not the last one, the one before, Money Master the Game. Great chapter in it with Ray Dalio about asset allocation, which fundamentally means how do you build a financial fortress? How do you diversify your wealth so it can compound over time, but in a way that it's not high risk? And most business owners, David, are extremely high risk. All their wealth's in their business, and they set themselves up for a fall. Because even though you've got a limited company, when the company goes down, emotionally we get attached, we pour all our money into it, and then we end up in a world of trouble. Diversification is key. So the way I view it, more succinctly, is your business creates the income, and then it's your personal investments that create the wealth.
Cool, love it. So mindset again.
I think it's key. Ongoing development in those three areas.
Yeah.
Always.
Okay, cool. Next one coming in is Dan. You've been around and interviewed many successful business owners. What would you say they all have in common? What's the secret sauce from Amanda?
Yeah, it's a great question, and first of all, a good quote. When I saw this question, I pulled up the quote because it's brilliant. I'm a big fan of Warren Buffett. As listeners to this podcast will know, any man that can still be worth 60 plus billion, having given away 50 billion, having made it from scratch, is well worth listening to. But his business partner, Charlie Munger, is also a self-made billionaire, one of the richest people in the world, and he's got some great quotes. And this quote is from Poor Charlie's Almanac, which is a really hard book to get hold of. You get used copies on Amazon, eBay, cost upwards of £100 a throw, but if you can get your hands on one, it's well worth it.
One of the library.
Yeah, it's one in my library, yeah, indeed. So the quote is this: in my whole life, I have known no wise people who didn't read all the time. None. Zero. You'd be amazed at how much Warren Buffett reads. You'd be amazed at how much I read. My children laugh at me. They think I'm a book with a couple of legs sticking out. And when I hear that quote and when I think about it, it's true. When I think of the people, it's an oversimplification for, I think it was Amanda. It was an oversimplification, Amanda, but if I tried to get it down to one thing, it's their ability to learn. One of the things I'm most grateful for my parents for is the fact that they instilled in me a desire and appetite for learning. And they're all students. Now, often prolific readers, but if you learn by different mechanisms, whether you listen to audiobooks, which is still reading, or podcasts, or, you do courses, or all of the above, I think that's a common denominator. If you look at the top 10 wealthiest people in the world, with the exception of one person, 9 of those 10 are still in their businesses, and they're still innovating. Right, so you want to talk about Jeff Bezos, you want to talk, Warren Buffett, they're operating the business, but they're constantly evolving. Yeah. So you might be wondering now who's the 10th.
For example, Apple.
And the 10th is Bill Gates. I think you have to dismiss that, Ed. Is Bill Gates. And anybody that becomes the richest person in the world, and he's still learning. Great documentary on this, if you look in, Inside Bill's Brain, documentary on Netflix. Fantastic. He's still an absolute student, even though he's not in Microsoft anymore. He's still an absolute student, and some might say he's going to make more wealth from his energy-related second phase of his life, his encore career, post-Microsoft, than he did in his career. So, look, I think you've got to be an absolute student and studying. Another good example of this. I am, in fact, some of these books I'm grabbing now. Oh, I was on camera as well, which is doubly embarrassing. So J. Abraham. So they call him the $6 billion man for the documented gains that he helped his clients to get. The point is, J. Abraham is internationally renowned as a top marketing mind. And I got a chance to work with him, be mentored by him. So I've read his books and done some of his courses. I got a chance to work with him personally a few years ago and get mentored by him. And when I first met Jay, it was in a hotel in London, and for the first few hours, I got bombarded with questions constantly, and I was like, when are we going to get to the advice? When are we going to get to the advice? And we did eventually get to the advice, and it was tremendously valuable and helpful. But I eventually figured it out. I said, Jay, why do you do it? Because I then subsequently saw him do it with other people as well. And he said, there's not a single person that I've met that I can't learn something from. I said, well, but Jay, you've done so much. And he said, well, he goes, they're not always success stories. He goes, if I can figure out what they've done that's not worked, what to avoid. Everybody's done something that I haven't done, nuances, augmented detail. It might even just reinforce points I already know, because but you've always got his, and it was just clear that his mind is an average student, and that's why he still sees himself as a student of marketing. Why he's one of the world's leading authorities on marketing for small business.
Wow.
There you go. That's my piece.
All right. Sometimes the biggest wins are the losses avoided.
Indeed, yeah. So how can you learn vicariously through others? Again, that's a value of great mentors, or again, I'm in favour of masterminds. Law of requisite variety, i.e. the person with the most flexibility controls the system. The more ways you've got to solve a problem, the more likely you are to win. So if you can learn different strategies from other people, all true innovation comes from outside of your industry, and it can just apply then and brought into your industry, that's helpful, and different ways of solving the problem. There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah, and you avoid the pain in the first place.
Indeed, especially if you're the cat. I know skin the cat, but if you can avoid the losses, right? Most people, if they can rewind their business career, and you say you can undo any 3 decisions you've made in the last 10 years, most people would look back and go, holy crap, I'd have a lot more money now.
Yeah.
Right? So the fact is, if you want to build wealth, I'm in favour of doing things to grow quicker, but actually, it's stopping doing the stupid shit.
Yeah.
Right? Warren Buffett quote, 2 rules of investing. Number 1, don't lose money. Rule number 2, refer to rule number 1. Right? So you've got to be constantly learning.
Brilliant, love it. Next question, comes in from Jessica. In your opinion, what effect will Brexit have on small business?
So, before we get down the political train wreck that is Brexit, I'm not going to comment on Brexit specifically, but just look back into history at times of significant change. Okay? Notice what goes on in your mind when I give you these examples. Number 1, 99, I think it was, the dot-com crash. Stock market crash, recessions all over the world. People thought the world was ending. Now, as you're reflecting on this in your mind now, you go, it wasn't that big a deal. At the time, it was all over the place. It was carnage. You could say the same is true with September the 11th in the US. It was like people thought the world was ending, right? Another example, 2008, the kind of global financial crisis, markets crashing, Lehman Brothers going down, total carnage. More recently, in a micro example for small business, the most recent panic that I remember, that everybody will remember, but just remember back how bad it was in terms of how fearful people got, GDPR.
Yes.
It was only a couple of years ago, and small business was in a panic. Oh my God, it was going to be complex. We're not going to be able to do any outbound marketing.
Lose all the database.
Going to lose the database.
Yeah.
And in reality, what happened?
Very little. Just had extra forms for them, a few buttons
for
to click.
most businesses, that's exactly it. Except if anything, now it's just annoying. Every website you go to ever, you've got to approve cookies, right? But I'm not trying to demean people that did lose businesses, etc., in the global financial crisis, etc., etc. I'm not trying to demean that. What I'm trying to say is the market tends to overreact. So are there some businesses that are import-export which it could have huge catastrophic impact? Yes. Generally, when there's that much change, if you're ahead of it, if you're thinking advance, if you move quicker than the rest of the market, the competitors, it can be a significant competitive advantage.
Yeah.
A variety of our clients use GDPR and the hassle of GDPR to absolutely nailing and being on top of it to get more business, more market share. But big picture, and I've got the person's name, Jessica. Big picture, Jessica, is that it's going to be fine. It's almost, if you spent more time focusing on the core fundamentals of your business and adding value, in all probability, it's something outside of your control. I mean, yes, vote, etc. But fundamentally, it's outside of your control. Just focus on the core drivers. I wouldn't worry about it unless it's very industry specific for you, in which case, great. You need to be all in and getting the advice and use it to your advantage.
It also comes back to one of the mastermind meetings, wasn't it? It's also about keeping cash reserves, isn't it?
Yes, I mean, risk mitigation, right? You go back to the BPM scorecard, which go and get your BPM scorecard. Turnover is vanity, profit is sanity, cash and cash flow, cash is king, right? So most businesses are undercapitalized, and they can't withstand the knocks.
Yes.
Right? Think about it a different way, use a sporting metaphor. Best way to win a game is not to concede goals. Right? As in, don't lose. If you don't lose, you're winning. You're most of the way there. So best offense is a strong defense. And a defensive element in business is having the cash reserves. That doesn't mean don't invest, but if you invest and leave yourselves exposed, then you're cruising for a bruising. So, and if you want to know more about that and about risk mitigation and ways to make your business more bulletproof, probably in the not too distant future, there'll be another recession. Well, there will be another recession. It's just a question of when. Go and get your BPM scorecard. We'll leave links around wherever you're watching or listening to this.
Awesome. Cool. Next question. I'm a single man in my early 30s and my PA is smoking hot. She's been flirting with me a lot recently, and I want to ask her out. So how can I ask her out without it getting into legal trouble or screwing up my business?
I love that.
P.S. I only have 3 employees total, so it's not some big corporation. Okay,
so I like the fact that in the background you might have heard my assistant burst out into laughter at this. Look, David, I let me try and hit it head on. Right, so there's one of my early podcasts was with a long-standing friend and mentor of mine called Keith Cunningham, and I think the podcast is called "Business is an Intellectual Sport." Okay. I think business is like intellectual chess, and when emotions get involved, it doesn't end well. Right? If there's an intense emotional reaction, it doesn't leave for an optimal result. Said differently or more bluntly, don't sleep with your business partners. I don't want to be beholden to a business decision dictates whether or not I get to have sex tonight or not. I don't think that's advantageous. I think so. Keith said to me one time, he wasn't actually aiming at me. We were just having a conversation about the topic. If you want excitement, go throw yourself out of a plane. Go bungee jumping. Go right. But it's like, look, getting rich is boring. Right? So, look, there is not a single thing in this question that I like the sound of. I'm definitely not going to give relationship advice, and I'm also not going to give you the HR advice because I don't have enough of the details. But if you want to date this girl, great. Let her go, let her get a job elsewhere, and then date her. Right? But if you dip your pen in the company ink, you're asking for trouble. I strongly suspect by the question, I'm hoping that it wasn't suspected that I might be able to give somehow an advantage. No, you can't win this game. Don't play the game. Unfortunately, I suspect you've already made up your mind, David. You're going to do what you want to do, but I won't touch it with a 12-foot barge pole.
Lose.
Indeed.
Right, moving on to our final question. Really nice short one. Is email marketing still effective?
Great, yeah. So, I've got a client, a guy called Paul, who, Paul, when we started working together, he already had one business, he had another business that we were working on that was mid-six-figure revenues. Now, a couple of years later, I don't know, we're 2-3 years later, he's well into seven-figure profits. Grown tremendously well, tremendously successful. He's extremely smart. He's one of the best marketers I know. He's conservative. He manages the business well. Strong cash reserves, the previous question, strong balance sheet, very good. And because he's such a good marketer, people go, oh my God, how do I do this? And I'm paraphrasing him slightly here, but he says, it's nothing to do with the platform, it's all to do with the narrative, is I think his word. Said a different way, it's about the content. So yes, for him, email marketing is a key component part that does really well. But he also does all the social media platforms. He also does write books. And all this drives business to him. And he says, but when he looks at it, it's not about, oh, it came via email, or it came via direct mail, or it came via, God, I was going to say fax, and it shows how old I am, right? What's the new one?
What is that?
Yeah, no, what's the new one? What are my
TikTok.
children? TikTok. Oh, my Lord.
Yeah, you are showing your age.
Oh, God. Right, but it's not about the platform. Rarely is that a sustainable advantage. It's actually about the narrative, about the content. So he goes, when he gets all these sales really easily, it's because he's been so prolific in content over years,
Yeah.
and the potential clients have consumed that content and they see the value. So the blunt answer to the question, is email marketing still effective? Absolutely, hands down, yes. But that's not the main driver. If it's not working, you're probably not going to be able to get it working by sending more emails now. It's a bigger question about how you adding, delivering value to the marketplace. That's a more important question.
Just more about the content than the actual way it's sent.
Correct.
Adding value to that client.
It's more about the content or more about the narrative than about the platform.
Love it.
Probably a topic for another time.
Brilliant. Let's put it for another script.
Good. So as a reminder, oh yes, what I've got to do, I was plugged by our team internally here. So comment below this video. So whether you're on YouTube or on the podcast, comment around where you're consuming this content. Let us know what you think. By all means, ping us an email. On Twitter, the hashtag is #AskDanBradbury. Like this video, subscribe, etc. We do this based upon you. The feedback's been tremendously strong and positive, but we're doing our best to get all the questions in. We've got a big long list of questions to come up in future episodes, but if you've got a good question, we'll pop it to the top of the list. So that's all for now. See you next time.